Welcome everybody to Trap Life. This is your home. Three back coaches talking ball. Not gonna lie, a lot of the topics apply to everyone. I mean, most of the topics apply to everyone, but they all kind of come from the world of three back life. The three back guys, I think, need to stick together a little bit because all the media, everything else is geared towards the type of ball you're going to see on TV. You're not going to see this type of ball as much on TV. Does not mean that it's not a great idea or not a great offense or not a proven offense. So thus, the existence of Trap Life. Today's topic is how do you know when you have the right backs in place? Or what back needs to go where? Now, it's a bigger picture item than just, well, you want this type of a kid at one back and this type of a kid at your halfback versus your fullback. It's not necessarily about that. It's about which of your Jimmies and Joes deserve to have the ball. And I think it's an interesting concept because great running backs come in different shapes and sizes and different styles of athletes, right? Once in a while, it's the track star that is also the great running back. Sometimes it's this big bruising type character that is very hard to stop. Sometimes it's this all-state wrestler, while the next time it's this little tiny thing like a point guard. You don't know the shapes and sizes these kids are going to come in. And so you look out at your team and you've got these decisions to make. Who goes where? And one of the things I'm curious about, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this offseason, is can I develop something? Can there be, not a tryout, that might be the wrong word for it, but something along those lines where I'm able to put the kids to a trial and allow them to compete to see who belongs at these ball-carrying spots. They're premier spots. Everyone wants the ball. And truly, as a running back, I don't care if you can catch the ball. Now, one of my three spots, yes, I like to have a guy that can catch it a little bit better, but I can live without it. In fact, the best team I've ever coached, that's that true wingback spot in our wing tee. Our wingback was not a receiver. In fact, he had okay hands, but he wasn't a premier receiver. We threw him 0 passes, right? And we had a fantastic year. So you don't have to have great hands, right? You think of a basketball player, this wide receiver type. I don't need that. I'm not opposed to it. You can do some things with a guy that's got great hands. But I just say all this to say they come in different shapes and sizes, and sometimes they're packaged in this unassuming character that just doesn't look like much. Today I brought in a guest, Brandon Wise from Dorado, Kansas. High school of about 400 kids, and he's a triple option guy. He's been offensive coordinator for 3 or 4 years at Dorado and just got the head job last year. And so I like to bring in another fellow three-back coach to pick his brain, and so that you don't just get my opinion on everything. But I had some good questions for him. I liked his answers, so we're going to pop over to some of those. The first question that I kicked off to him was, and all you coaches know this. You don't have to be a three-back coach to know this. Listen, those spots, those people that get the ball, those are premier spots. Those are highly sought-after spots. Every parent wants their kids to have one. Every kid wants one. The kids want the ball. I completely understand it. I stay away from the feeling of, darn kids, everyone's selfish, wants the ball. No, it's not a kid thing. That's humans. We all want the ball. Who wouldn't want to be the star? I want the ball. I'm just too old to carry it anymore. So the question for me is how do you sort that? When the kids come in, let's say freshman year, here they come. Here come the new crew of freshmen. How do you sort? Again, knowing that it's not always just the certain looking kid that's your stud. How do you sort when they're freshmen? Let's hear from Coach Wise. What is it for you that makes you want to be a three-back guy, you guys being a triple team?
And my quarterback's a stud too. I'm actually going to have to replace him this year. He's a 4-year starter for us. So the possibility of one of my three backs lead blocking, and the other three, include my quarterback, all have an possibility to be carrying the ball, and they can all hurt you in different ways. I'm a big fan. You got to be really disciplined on defense. You got to everyone's do their job. Everybody tackle the right piece, and if not, you're giving us an opportunity to pop a big one on you.
Now, in the world of football in general, it doesn't matter if you're a three-back coach or not, but, being in one of those positions that's going to get the ball, those are the premier spots, right? Everybody wants them. Even your guys that you really badly want them on the line, they want them too, right? So how do you, when the kids come in as freshmen, how do you sort? How do you let it get sorted between ball carriers, blockers?
Man, that's a good question. One, first off, like we got some smaller kids, especially that play tackle. I love my fat kids, right? I celebrate those kids. A 4-year starter at offensive line for me, I think he was as big as this year at like 195 pounds. He is a 4-year starter. We just celebrate those kids. Man, you find the playmakers, and those are your kids that, I'm looking for my B-back or fullback. I'm looking for a big bruiser who runs hard, who's not afraid of contact. And then the other pieces, I'm looking for that healthy balance of willing to do dirty work and block, and, can do a little bit of damage with their ball in their hands. And then, kids that don't really necessarily fit those, a lot of times I put them at a receiver, find a spot for them on the line, or, something like that.
Now, when they come in, though, as freshmen, how is it getting sorted right away? Do you let them go where they want, or do you picking them out and saying, you're going here?
I pretty much let them go where they want, and have an idea. Our middle school runs our system just a little bit more simplified, obviously less option plays. I let them go where they want, and then if it's not going good, I'll just go up and have that conversation with the kid. Hey, I think you can help the team. I think you'd be more successful at this spot. How do you feel about that? And I've never made a kid move, but I've yet to really have a kid tell me no either. So, I mean, I moved to a kid that sophomore this year, ended up starting center for us this year, came in last year as a freshman as a offense or as a B-back, as a fullback. And I just told him, I'm like, hey, like I always say promoted. I said, how do you feel about being promoted to the offensive line? And he took it, and and ended up playing all year for us as a starter at center. So
That's probably a very similar thing to what I've done in the past. What do you guys do? Do you do anything different? Make sure you shoot me a tweet or anything. Shoot me an email, coachalbaugh@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter at Nate_Albaugh. I want to know, how are you sorting your kids? It's not a generic question. I'm genuinely seeking input. I want to get the right kids in the right place. When I was, and this fed kind of in my next question, it's not always just your fastest kid. No, it's not. It's rare, but sometimes the fastest kid on the team is not a good back. I've had it happen before. They're the fastest kid, and you would think he should be getting the ball, but he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. And that's that question. How do you know who has it? Is there data to it? Or is it an art form? Is it just intuitive as you as a coach, as you watch these kids, you put them through drills, and you just look and you watch and you give them a carry and you go, ooh, yep, that kid's got it. Because there certainly is a fair amount of that to it. In 2013, it was my first year on the job at Champaign Central High School. They had not won a game the year before, and here I come, new job. We weren't loaded with talent. We had some pieces, though, don't get me wrong. But I remember we had a kid named Toby, all-state wrestler type, 200-pound kid, just that beast of a human. And when I got there, and I had a couple men that had been on staff the year before, and Toby he was a lineman. And started off the year, Toby was at guard. And I don't want to lie, I don't want to make it up. I cannot remember what it was. I feel like it was some sort of a drill, and you're watching his feet, and you go, man, that kid that kid's got a little wiggle. That's always my term for it. That's my technical term. He's got a little wiggle. And we throw him in at fullback, and day one leads to day two, and day two leads to he's in a game. And I'd never forget, we went to this is probably maybe it was one of his first 2 games at fullback for us. No, that's not true. Well, we get to Danville, and it's already been seen that Toby's good. He hadn't had like a breakout game, but for what we were, a team that was trying to recover from being a winless team and turn around a program, we were 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and Toby could do that well. He was just a beast. We go to Danville, who is just coming off a great year, a team that, for all intents and purposes, was supposed to whoop us pretty good. And Toby has a 300-yard game. I mean, he just breakaway runs, breaking tackle. He was impossible to tackle. And again, when you look at this kid, if he rolled into your program, I mean, he looks like a stud. You'd go, okay, that's my middle linebacker, or maybe that's my right guard. But I don't think you'd look and go, oh, yeah, that's my tailback. If you watched him run, he wasn't the fastest kid on the team. And so that was my next question to turn over to Coach Wise. What is it, man? Is this measurable? Or is this up to you as a coach?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of mixing that, finding that balance between the science and the art of it. I mean, I'd say there's coaching is both data driven and art and a feel, in my opinion. Yeah, I've had several kids who were faster than other kids. They weren't as good with the ball in their hands. I mean, and that's just unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think it's just finding that balance.
The last question that I posed to Coach Wise really, comes back to Toby, is the ability to run hard, right? Is that a definable term? I think takes a second to think about that. If someone said, define running hard, how would you define it? For me, when I think, and didn't get this answer ready, I'm trying to think through an answer myself right now. What does it mean to run hard? Because I watch some kids and I go, man, that kid runs hard. To me, it's attacking contact without hesitation. And you can see, I mean, even the slightest bit of hesitation, you can see. A kid who runs hard attacks it without hesitation. A kid who runs hard finds a way off of contact. He wiggles and squirms and wrenches free and leans and falls forward. That's a kid that runs hard. And to me, to be a kid that runs hard, you don't have to be a shoulder down running people over, right? You don't have to be Christian Okoye. I don't think it has to be this runner who's just full of hard hits. I think that's probably a misconception. I don't think of that when I think this kid runs hard. I don't need you to put a shoulder down. In fact, there's a lot of situations I'd rather you not put a shoulder down, because not putting a shoulder down squeaks out 2 extra yards. But when you, as a person, think back to your special backs, right? The most special ones you've coached, who do you think of, right? Is that a kid who runs hard? My guess is, yeah, he just runs hard. So that's my first question. How do you define it? That's not the question I asked to Coach Wise. The question I turned over to Coach Wise is running hard a teachable skill?
Man, I don't know that it's a fully teachable skill. I think you can do some stuff to help your kids be more comfortable, right? Like our B-back who runs in between the guards, really. We spend a lot of time, focusing on his read key and sinking and sliding and all that kind of stuff. And, I think that can help a lot, but man, at some point in time, I think either a kid's afraid of contact or a kid's not afraid of contact. I mean, and obviously getting them popped, protecting them when they're young, but, introducing contact and, at some point in time, you just got to get hit and pop back up from it, and I think once a kid does that, usually they realize, oh, okay, it's not that bad anymore. And, and some kids, it never happens, unfortunately. I mean, I've had tons of kids in my career that just keep on shying away from contact, can't do anything to just get them to lower their shoulder through. you know. In Kansas, a funny story. I had a kid, small 8-man school out in Western Kansas. He never did hit it hard. And then the coach I was working for at the time, he said, he goes, "You ever seen a deer run into a barbed wire fence?" And the kid goes, "Well, yeah." He goes, "All right." He goes, "What happens when that deer slows down?" He goes, "Oh, it gets all mangled up in there." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You ever seen it hit at full speed?" He goes, "Yeah, he always finds its way through." And he goes, "All right, well, you're that deer in that line of scrimmage is that barbed wire fence." I don't know what that kid took to that analogy. And ever since then, he just flew right through it. It's
Yeah.
the craziest thing I'd ever saw.
That's a good little analogy. So at how much, and this is my last question for you here, the last piece that I'll work in, I try to keep these episodes kind of short. How much do your three backs rotate a month within a game? Or is it really those three kids, they're staying, we don't rotate much? Or is it a high rotation position for you in a game?
We my B back in the flex, I like to roll with him as long as I can, right? He kind of pulls himself out when he needs a break. It's a really important role for us. My two wing backs that are the motion pieces and everything. I pick about 4 guys and they rotate out. They're probably in for 4 and out for 4. Those 2 pieces and my receivers kind of run plays in, and they're the rotation pieces. So, and then when we get into got to have first downs, when we get into goal line situations, I have my two main A backs that I make sure they're in the game, and and I'll grab someone, we'll rotate out a piece or here or there, but for the most part, I got my main guys that rotate out because we play both ways, and those guys will rotate out, but when it's nut cutting time, I got my guys that I roll with.
A lot of good thoughts there from Coach Wise. I like how he put it. Again, there is an art to it. Some of it is artistry. You as a coach and the decisions you make, there's artistry. So I'm going to cut over to Coach Wise here in a moment, let him sign out and tell you guys where you can get a hold of him. He's a big-time student of the triple option for you triple option guys, to make sure you guys are reaching out to each other as well. Follow each other on Twitter. Guys, thanks for following us. Hey, stay tuned, man. We've got a social and a virtual clinic coming at the end of January 27th, Friday night, downtown Champaign, Illinois. I got room for about 30 guys to be a part of the Trap Life Social. I'm bringing in 2 speakers. We'll talk ball, enjoy some drinks, enjoy each other's company. I hope that you guys will think about joining us. Reach out to us anytime if you're interested in stopping by, and you'll see announcements coming to Twitter and to our website, all of those things. All right, I'm going to cut it over to Coach Wise to sign us out, and I'll be right back.
First off, thanks for having me on. I appreciate this. My first podcast I've been on. I'm pretty excited about it. I love listening to podcasts, especially football ones, and learn as much as I can. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, B_Wise59 is my Twitter handle. Brandon.wise59@gmail. That's my email. I'm always willing to talk football, and man, I love learning. So, if you got something you want to bring to the table, I love learning just as much as more than I love talking, honestly. So, yeah.
Thank you, Coach Wise, for joining us here on Trap Life. Thank you guys for listening. Spread the word. Follow whatever you're following on, follow, all the things. We'll see you guys soon.